Many thanks to Mr. Law for giving me the opportunity to chat to you this evening. It's a real pleasure to be here. In this short talk, I'd like to tell you something about how modern teaching can support those with aspirations to pursue STEM and the science subjects in their tertiary education. But I thought I'd open with a little bit about my own path into the sciences. Exeter College, Oxford was founded in 1314. The oldest and only remaining part of the medieval college, Palmer's Tower, named after the 15th century rector of the college, was built in 1432. You can picture the scene in the hallway at the top of that building some 550 years later on a rainy autumn day, and there sitting on a single chair, looking at an old master-style portrait, is an exceptionally nervous sixth former. A significantly slimmer version than the person standing before you today, waiting to walk through that door to have his interview for a place to read chemistry. I was very lucky. The interview went very well. In fact, despite an amazing level of anxiety, I really enjoyed it. And so in the last post on Christmas Eve that year, I got a letter from one of the chemistry tutors to say I had been offered a place. I went to Oxford in 1985 and I stayed in Oxford until 2001, moving to Wilson College for my DPhil in inorganic chemistry and then to Jesus College to take up a senior research fellowship and EPSRC advanced fellowship, and while at Jesus. At Jesus College I sat on the other side of that door and interviewed candidates to offer them places. And then after a period as a university lecturer, I then went into school teaching, and I now prepare students at Clifton, not just for that Oxbridge interview, but how to approach their university studies in general, so that they thrive studying STEM subjects at a range of leading universities. At Clifton, this is not only in the general teaching of our core science subjects. In the present sixth form of 331 students, about half of them study maths, and we have 70 studying chemistry, 71 studying physics, and 74 studying biology. But we also prepare our students through something we call the Pippard Society. This is named after Sir Brian Pippard, who was educated at Clifton and went on to be the Cavendish Professor of Physics at the University of Cambridge from 1971 until 1984. We are fortunate, as Vincent has already said at the school, to list 2 Nobel Prize winners for science, and in addition to Pippard, 1 further Fellow of the Royal Society. The present Lucasian Professor of Maths at the University of Cambridge is also an OC, a chair which was originally held by Sir Isaac Newton. A Pippard group for every subject meets at least once a week throughout the lower sixth and the first term of the upper sixth. Let us now look at how able students need to be prepared. Following the recent reform of A-level subjects, some aspects, such as the terminal nature of A-levels, have returned to where they were when I took them in the mid-1980s. But other elements have changed a great deal, principally among them being that students, and indeed the teacher, can be more slaves to the syllabus or specification than was the case in those days. It is now common for publishers to write course textbooks that are tailored exactly to the specific content of the exam, and then to distill this content into a yet more concentrated version to serve as a revision guide. Gone to a large extent are the days of general textbooks where subject content was much, much broader. I can remember at school being given the syllabus for chemistry in the last week of my teaching in the upper sixth, and discovering that we had covered a whole range of topics that were not mentioned at all in the exam and were not going to feature in the A-level papers the following week. Whereas now there would be untold uproar and complaints from parents, in those days no one seemed even slightly fazed by it. This lack of scope is of course relatively easily remedied by teachers who simply need to draw on their own deep knowledge of their subjects to make sure that students are not limited by the narrow confines of the syllabus, but given a real chance to see what lies beyond, and indeed how each topic will develop if they go on to study it at a higher level. This is also very important as it stops students thinking that they have the definitive answer to a problem, as they quickly learn that there are higher levels of understanding, better models, and other ways of explaining things to those that they have been taught at school. Often pupils can initially rail against this. They say, "Oh, all you've taught us is wrong, sir." What is the right answer? When are we going to learn what the right answer is? The best science students need to learn at school that there is no right answer. There is only a model that works better than others for whatever is being described. Another aspect of the curriculum is not to see each subject in isolation. Perhaps the biggest area of development has been at the interface between the traditional science subjects. This is certainly true at the interface between chemistry and biology, and is not yet really reflected fully in either A-level course. There is a whole range of new subjects that exist, both at universities and in the workplace, that simply are not reflected in what we offer in the curriculum at school level. These areas can be a challenge for teachers, as can simply staying up to date with the advances that happen after we have graduated. If teachers do not do this, it becomes very easy to deliver material that is increasingly out of date. I was recently caught out by such a case. My son was writing an essay on kinesins, which allow cellular cargo to move against concentration gradients in cells. I said to him that I couldn't remember learning about any such thing when I was at school. And to be honest, I was a little bit anxious about this, and how I could possibly have forgotten something that seemed so important and indeed so interesting. Of course, it turned out that the discovery of kinesins was in 1987, 2 years after I had taken A-level biology. For teachers, the easiest way to stay on top of such advances is, of course, to work with the students to encourage them to explore the latest developments and headlines. This serves not only to bring our subjects to life and show the amazing advances that are taking place, but also allows teachers and their students to work together on a more equal footing. If these are ideas about how teachers can expand their horizons, what about changing the way that able students work? As just mentioned, they need to be encouraged to explore subjects much more on their own, to read more widely, and to think about problems in much greater detail. Arguably, as the quality of teaching improves and teachers provide students with every little thing that they need, so this becomes more of a challenge. Some of us can probably remember completely hopeless teachers when we were pupils, and in these subjects independent learning became something of an imperative, as without it you were totally sunk. Now it is the enthusiasm for a subject conveyed by the teacher that is needed to encourage independent study. On its own, this is still not enough, and schools need to make certain they support with the right resources, a range of books, periodicals, online journals, and most importantly of all, that they give pupils the time they need to enjoy this aspect of their learning. It would not be right to talk about preparation for university without touching on the importance of mathematics. In the end, maths is the language of much of the sciences, and a really solid foundation in maths is essential. A lot of sciences have moved to discount maths, and universities have claimed that maths is not required to study the subject. This is also true for chemistry. More than that, maths is vital for all the physical sciences. It's vital that students learn to describe what they observe using mathematical expressions, and that they can also go the other way and interpret what mathematical equations really mean and predict, and understand them in a deep way. I know I spend a lot of time in my pip art lessons on this, as students take such a long time to master this skill. Another key aspect of how students learn, which sounds so easy, but in practice can be so difficult, is to make able students think out loud. Often pupils, particularly those who are academically able, have always known the answer to every question. When their hands go up, they do so in the certain knowledge that they have the right answer. The challenge then comes when they are forced to think through a problem which is very unfamiliar, which almost always lies at the centre of any Oxbridge interview they may have. In these circumstances, pupils can really clam up, anxious not to say the wrong thing, and as a result they do not reveal their thinking or how they are approaching a problem. In a small group, this also means they cannot work collaboratively and pick up on what each one has said and challenge each other's ideas. Of all the skills, that modern students require, this can take the longest to develop. The Oxbridge set I teach each week, it can take at least a term or more for them to develop the ability to simply think out loud, perhaps something that is more alien to the scientist than it is to those who study the arts. A final key area that we also need to touch on is the need to develop practical skills. In many ways, this has become more challenging, particularly in chemistry, where health and safety has seriously curtailed what can be done. Gone are some absolutely great experiments where you could work out the percentage of mercury in a compound by reducing to the metal and warming gently with a Bunsen to drive a sample. This said, in all the STEM subjects, familiarity and confidence with practical aspects is essential. At Clifton, we would generally expect to spend up to half of the curriculum time on practical training. On the academic side, then, we need to teach in a way that promotes a thirst for greater knowledge and understanding, that encourages students to engage and to be able to work together. In some ways, none of these skills are really critical to success at A-level, but they all become absolutely essential if students are to thrive academically at the top universities. Thriving at university is more, though, than simply being academically successful. There is an aspect of well-being that has to some extent been neglected until more recent times. The level of pastoral care has improved both at schools and universities, but despite this, for many students, it can be a difficult and daunting transition. Boarding students who have spent the last 5 years living as a close group can turn up for that first day at university and feel rather alone and isolated. It is not the main focus of this talk, but it would be wrong not to mention this very important area and reassure you of the work that Clifton and other schools like us do to prepare students for this challenge. It is also important for all our students to realise that you never stop being an old Cliftonian and that the school is ready to support them if they need help during their time at university. I will close by sharing what is perhaps the most important part of preparation for any future student, be they in STEM subjects, heading for Oxbridge, Imperial or any university, and that is simply to enjoy their subject. It is huge fun to be challenged, to have to think deeply about a particular problem, to realise how much there is to learn and to understand, to know that science is creative and that one day you may have the opportunity to design your own experiment, not to do ones designed by others, and even if it is only in the very smallest of ways, help to push forward our understanding of some area of your subject. A journey that for so many students starts in a classroom being inspired by a teacher. Thank you for listening.